The wind cut across the empty playground like a knife, dry and bitter with the sting of early November. Leaves skittered across the cracked blacktop like frightened mice, their sharp edges rasping in the silence. The sun had barely breached the horizon, and the sky still wore the pale hush of morning. The metal swing sets groaned faintly in the breeze, and the slide, long rusted along its seams, shimmered faintly with a skin of dew. It was the kind of morning that most people avoided. Cold, gritty, forgotten. But in the far corner, beneath the weather-stained monkey bars, something was happening, quietly, without fanfare, without witnesses. Something extraordinary. A boy no older than 4, his jacket sleeves too long and dragging against the ground, was taking his first unsteady steps. His movements were jerky, almost mechanical, like a puppet trying to understand freedom. Each step was a triumph. Each stumble, a defiance of gravity. And behind him, barefoot on the pavement, stood a girl of no more than 10. Her clothes were threadbare, oversized, clearly handed down too many times. Dirt smudged her cheeks, and her hair was tangled in thick knots. But her eyes, they sparkled with fierce encouragement. "You've got it, buddy," she whispered softly, clapping her hands once. "Just one more. You're doing it." There was no one else around. No therapists, no parents. Just her and the boy and the cold morning wind. But across the lot, behind the windshield of a sleek black SUV, a man stood frozen. His coat, pressed and tailored, did nothing to hide the tremble in his hands as he watched the scene unfold. Graham Mercer, tech tycoon, billionaire, single father, had come to the therapy center to pick up his son, only to find the doors locked, the session canceled without notice. Irritated, he'd intended to drive off. But the moment he saw the little figure moving across the playground, he stopped breathing. It was his son, Noah. Noah, who'd been diagnosed at 2 with a severe neurological disorder that impaired motor skills. Noah, who'd never walked unassisted. Who had stumbled under the weight of hope too many times. Doctors had said progress would be slow, if it came at all. Graham had flown in world-renowned specialists, built a therapy wing in their home, spared no expense. And yet, not a single step had come. Not until now. And not under the guidance of a licensed expert, but a barefoot girl who looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Graham stepped out of the SUV, drawn forward almost against his will, his expensive shoes crunching on the gravel. The girl looked up sharply, her body going rigid, as if preparing to run. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, pulling Noah protectively behind her. Her eyes were wide, wary. "I didn't mean any harm." He looked lonely. "I come here sometimes to think. I didn't know anyone else would be here." Graham lifted his hands, his voice soft. "It's okay. I'm not angry. I'm his father." Noah turned and grinned, his face flushed with triumph. "Daddy, I walked. Maya helped me." The girl, Maya, stood frozen. Her frame was so slight, her sneakers so torn, Graham felt a pang of something deeper than guilt. Her face, though young, bore the hardness of survival. But her eyes, they held a kindness that pierced him. "How long have you been living like this?" he asked gently. She shrugged, her gaze lowering. "Since last winter. My mom died. I don't have anyone left. I sleep near the shelter sometimes. But it's usually full. I'm careful. I help people. I try to stay out of trouble." Graham knelt, resting his hand on his son's shoulder. Noah beamed with pride. "She helps me," he said again. "Better than the ladies with the white coats." That night, Graham couldn't sleep. He sat in his office, scrolling through footage from the therapy center's cameras, watching over and over as Maya guided Noah, her patience limitless, her voice gentle. No paycheck, no clipboard, just love. The next day, he returned. She wasn't there, nor the next, or the next after that. A week passed, then 2. Finally, on a storm-drenched afternoon, he spotted her under a bus shelter, hugging her knees, soaked to the bone. He pulled over, stepped out with an umbrella and a warm coat. She flinched when he approached. "I've been looking for you," he said. She hesitated, lips trembling. "Why?" "Because you helped my son." He knelt beside her. "And because no child should have to survive the way you have." She didn't say yes. Not right away. But she didn't run either. That night, Graham brought her home. The guest room became hers. The pantry was restocked. Counselors were brought in, tutors assigned. At first, Maya kept her distance. She slept in her clothes. She flinched at loud noises. But slowly, Over weeks, then months, she began to bloom. She learned fast, faster than anyone expected. She had an eye for design, a talent for problem-solving, a gentle strength that made her magnetic. She and Noah became inseparable, more siblings than friends. Wherever he went, she was there. And Graham, for the first time in years, felt his house transform from a cold glass fortress to a home. One evening, as the sun melted behind the hills beyond their estate, Maya stood beside him on the balcony. Noah was below, chasing fireflies, laughing without a limp in sight. "You changed his life," Graham said quietly. She shook her head. "He changed mine. I used to feel invisible. Now I feel seen." He turned to her, his voice soft. "You're not just seen, Maya. You're loved. You're part of this family. And you always will be." Years passed. Noah grew taller, stronger. He ran track, danced, dreamed. Maya became a force. At 18, she was offered scholarships to universities across the country. She chose the one closest to home, not because she doubted her wings, but because she remembered what it felt like to fall alone. She majored in childhood development and social work. Her thesis, Invisible Hands, the impact of peer empathy in early neurotherapy, became national news. And then, on a golden spring afternoon, Maya stood at a podium. Valedictorian. Her hair was neatly braided, her posture calm. The auditorium was full. In the front row, Graham and Noah watched with glistening eyes. "Once," Maya began, "I was a little girl with no home, no family, no voice. But someone saw me, not as a problem, not as a statistic, as a person. He gave me shelter, but more than that, he gave me dignity." She paused, smiling at Noah. "And a little boy who'd never taken a step showed me how to keep moving forward. He didn't just teach me how to walk through my pain. He reminded me how to believe. When we choose to give, really give, we build miracles." A hush fell over the room. "And to the children out there," she continued, "who feel forgotten, you are not. I see you. We see you. And we are building a world where you will never have to walk alone again." The applause was thunderous. But in the midst of it, Graham sat perfectly still. A single tear slid down his cheek. Because on a cold playground years ago, he had watched a girl spark a miracle. And now, in front of a world that finally saw her, she became the miracle herself. A reminder that sometimes, the smallest hands carry the greatest light. And that love, real love, asks for nothing, yet gives everything.